Welcome back to CVTV News.
Redistricting school attendance zones is easily one of the most challenging tasks a school board can undertake. And I know as a school teacher, you certainly understand this.
Right.
And I know that because I used to be on the school board in Stafford County, and I still have nightmares about redistricting. Really do.
And teachers have nightmares because that affects their numbers, the classroom numbers, the school numbers. It also affects even how long children have to wait after school to be picked up by a bus.
It's a very good point. It affects where children go to school, how far away from home they'll be, and yes, how long they'll be on the bus.
Right.
Understandably, parents and communities take a passionate interest in this topic. That's why the Stafford County School Board is right now in redrawing elementary school attendance zones. It's a complicated process, and while it may seem easy enough, it's not. Rapid population growth has meant, for example, that some elementary schools are operating far beyond their capacity, and they can no longer handle the areas they once supported. This means attendance zones have to be split and children bused elsewhere. Also, expected future growth plays into this discussion as well. The lobbying and anxiety this creates is intense, and nerves are frayed. Stafford began redrawing its attendance zones for its 17 elementary schools by hiring an independent consultant. The company provided 3 plans. This has morphed into plans A through F, which is more than 3. But gradually these are being whittled down. The debate is intense, and this week the board will be working to come up with a consensus. They plan to have 2 public hearings on the proposed plans, one on March 13th at North Stafford High School, and another on March 14th at Stafford High School. There will be a 3rd work session on March 21st, and the final vote is scheduled to occur on March 29th. And I will be having nightmares about this tonight, I think.
I'm sorry, I'll be thinking about you.
Maybe I'll just stay up all night.
Might be a good idea. On Tuesday, March 5th, 2019, numerous prison reform advocates from around the state of Virginia convened in Richmond for the 2019 Virginia Day of Empathy. This day, in conjunction with other states around the country, was reserved for recognizing those who have been overly or wrongfully incarcerated. Not only the formerly incarcerated and children of incarcerated parents, but family members who have lost loved ones to violent crime joined to humanize and empathize with those who are impacted. This event shed light on the importance of supporting rehabilitation and treatment for addiction rather than incarceration. The Virginia Day of Empathy engaged several civic organizations, criminal justice reform groups, elected officials, and other state advocates in meaningful discussions around the status of prison reform in Virginia. A press conference was held at to publicly support legislation for bettering conditions within our justice system and offered hope and support for those currently incarcerated. This method of advocacy ushers in a deeper philosophy of reducing recidivism and keeping offenders from returning to crime. Most Americans have heard about the First Step Act that was recently signed into law.
That's right.
That was December 21st, 2018. This law passed in response to a lack of good rehabilitative programming, compounded by overcrowded prisons and disproportionate sentencing that created a revolving door in the prisons. Most, however, do not know is that the influence is only limited to less than 13% of the prison population, and that's the population in federal penitentiaries, not necessarily extended to state prisons or even local jails or even immigration detention facilities. Some of the federal First Step Act provision guidelines can be adopted on a state and local level. The First Step Act provides modest humanitarian reforms to the way we treat prisoners. For example, it would make female health products more available in federal prisons, whereas many incarcerated women have limited hygiene products available, so much so that they have to trade favors to take care of cleanliness needs. The First Step Act eliminates shackling female inmates during childbirth. The First Step Act provides for consideration of release of terminally ill prisoners and mandates de-escalation training for correctional officers, and authorizes new markets for federal prison industries. The act would work to keep inmate families together by expanding visits, phone privileges, teleconferencing, and opportunities to transfer to prisons closer to home. The First Step Act, with a modest federal budget of $250 million over 5 years, would
Not very
increase,
much.
no, it's not. It would increase new inmate education, mental health rehabilitation programs, and substance abuse treatment for inmates. According to the criminal justice reform advocacy group called Right on Crime, Texas is a forerunner and a model in this legislation where, after an initial investment of $241 million in rehabilitation programs more than a decade ago, ended up saving more than $4 billion with a B, dollars between 2006 and 2016. Another way to look at it is that for every $1 spent on mental health treatments, education, and substance abuse rehabilitation, taxpayers save from $1.27 to upwards of $5.47 in crime reduction and incarceration. The First Step Act establishes incentives for prisoners to participate and are tailored to meet the inmates' needs. The Department of Justice will develop a post-sentence risk and needs assessment system that will be implemented in all federal facilities. Prisoners' individual risk and needs will be assessed annually. Lower risk prisoners may be eligible to serve the final days of their sentences in a halfway house or on house arrest. The Bureau of Prisons, or BOP,
Or BOP.
will be required to increase and improve programming. They will partner with nonprofit and faith-based organizations to meet individual needs. All programs that reduce recidivism,
It's easy for you to
it's
say.
easy for me to say, may qualify for earned time credits.
That's a great report, and I like the depth you go into that.
Thank you.
Because it's an important topic, and frankly, we have way too many people in prison.
Right.
And I'm not going to say they shouldn't be there, but they don't. We should be making more of an effort
the
to make
cycle
them.
has to be broken.
The cycle has to be broken. I think
Right.
it's well put.
Thank you. Now we go over to George Kearns with sports.
George?
Thanks, guys. George Kearns here for CVTV Sports. Tight end Jason Witten of the Dallas Cowboys is coming out of retirement for 1 year to work with the team. Owner Jerry Jones convinced him to leave broadcasting on Monday Night Football for another year. In local high school basketball, Cortland boys fall in the state quarterfinals to Lake Taylor, and Colonial Forge loses to Oscar Smith, as all the local teams are now gone except for Louisa, who will move on to the state semifinals and face Lake Taylor, and the winner of that game will face the winner of GW Danville and Jefferson Forest. In Major League Baseball, outfielder Bryce Harper's contract in Philly is from 2019 to 2031, $330 million. Outfielder Manny Machado of San Diego Padres is 2019 to 2028, $300 million. In NBA news, the Lakers have lost back-to-back games, 131 to 120 to Milwaukee, and lost to the league's worst Phoenix Suns, and now LeBron and the Lakers are 4.5 games back of the final eighth playoff spot, and the Wizards are 4.5 games out of eighth place in the playoffs, and the Wizards remain 3 to 4 games out of first place in their division. In men's college basketball, Virginia beat Pittsburgh 73 to 49 behind Kyle Guy's 17 points. Tennessee beats Kentucky. Duke blows out Miami. March Madness begins in less than 2 weeks. In NASCAR, Joey Logano wins the Pennzoil 400 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. In UFC, John Jones delivers a dominating performance to keep his UFC title. Well, that's a look at sports. I'm George Kearns for CVTV Sports. Back to you guys.
Oh, we'd like to thank you for joining us for our weekly broadcast from CVTV, brought to you by Germantic Community College. Deirdre?
Thank you for welcoming us into your home. We feel like part of your family because we do know that you have a choice for news, and we thank you for using us for your news source for Stafford and the local area.
Have a good week, and thanks for tuning in.